Hello, today is August 21st, 2021, and thank you for joining me for another edition of the Market Commentator podcast. My name is Andy Wilms, and I am the president and CEO of the Milwaukee Company, and today I will be discussing Central Bank Chairman Powell's press conference following the conclusion of the Fed's two-day virtual Jackson Hole Symposium. But before we get started, I would like to thank those of you who were kind enough to respond to my podcast survey. Beginning today, I'm going to be implementing 3 of the suggestions that were recommended by the survey. The first would be to focus more on recent market developments. The second is for the podcast recordings to be more timely as opposed to being recorded at the same date and time each week. And thirdly, to try and keep the podcast shorter, which I will also be doing. I will also be posting the podcast to my personal LinkedIn page. So if you are a first-time listener, welcome. And with that having been said, let's get started. The Federal Reserve concluded its 2-day virtual Jackson Hole meeting on Friday. And in his much anticipated speech, Fed Chairman Powell indicated that the central bank is likely to begin tapering its bond purchases before the end of the year, so long as economic progress continues. But he also added that while inflation has exceeded the Fed's 2% target rate, we have much ground to cover to reach maximum employment, which is the second prong of the central bank's dual mandate and would have to be met before the Fed would be willing to begin hiking interest rates. In a post for FedEx Street, Yohei Alam compared Chairman Powell's speech to the Clint Eastwood classic movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The good, the outlook for the labor market has improved and is likely to continue. The bad, inflation is a growing concern, but it is expected that its acceleration will be transitory or short-lived. And third, the ugly, the COVID-19 Delta variant is a wild card and could lead to a delay in the tapering of the Fed's bond purchases if the pandemic worsens. Not all of Powell's colleagues agree with him, however. The next Fed's next meeting will be on September 21st and September 22nd, and several Fed officials have said they will argue in favor of beginning to taper bond purchases shortly after that meeting if the recent run of strong hiring continues, in contradiction to Powell, who would like to wait till the end of the year, probably closer to its November meeting date, to start any kind of tapering. The dissenters are concerned that if the Fed continues to pump massive amounts of money into the economy, it could, in essence, or eventually overstimulate the economy, which would lead to higher inflation for a longer period of time. Personally, I share the dissenters' concerns. Core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, rose 3.6% in July from a year earlier, which is much higher than the Fed's preferred rate of 2%. As a result, I have continued to position my clients' portfolios to lower their vulnerability to inflation, and I've been doing that since the early part of the year. Well, that should wrap it up for now. Thank you for listening. Please keep in mind that you should conduct your own independent research before acting on any information or opinions expressed during this podcast, and that you should not act on anything you have heard in the podcast until you have discussed it with a qualified financial professional who is familiar with your personal situation and investment objectives. Thanks again, and have a great day.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be a solicitation, offering, or recommendation of any security, commodity, derivative, investment management service, or advisory service. Nothing in this podcast constitutes or should be understood as constituting a recommendation to enter in any securities transactions or to engage in any of the investment strategies discussed. Viewers should consult with an independent financial professional or independently research and verify information presented in this podcast before acting on it.